Welcome to the BackPageLead Vidcast with our resident footy guru, Wayne Carey. How are you, birthday boy?
Good.
You were in Queensland celebrating the big day?
Yeah, very quiet, Charlie. Wouldn't call it a celebration.
Tucked up early, were you?
Tucked up early, 10 o'clock.
I'm not sure what your highlight of the weekend was. We had a few interesting incidents. Karmichael Hunt sort of roosting a goal and actually looking like an AFL player, roosting a drop punt from 55 metres. West Coast Eagles put well and truly back in their box by Collingwood. What was your highlight?
I think the highlight would have to be, I think I got it terribly wrong in that I thought West Coast would really challenge Collingwood, and let's be honest, they did throughout the game. They didn't get blown away until the end. If that game was in Perth, I think a different story. I think West Coast now...
You're sticking by that?
Well, I really do. I think West Coast at home now have got that real home ground advantage again, and it would have been a different story over there. I'm sure it would have been a lot closer, but Collingwood shows that they're still probably the best side in it, and thoroughly deserve their win. Daisy Thomas taking his game to a new level. I've watched him the last couple of weeks. Yeah. He's been absolutely brilliant. What I love about him most is he just doesn't miss a tackle. He has to run around in the shower to get wet. He's that slight, but seriously, his defensive tackling is just brilliant, and he's a player that many people would go to watch. He's not one of them.
He doesn't look like a footballer, does he? He's spindly, as you say. He's got slightly hunched shoulders. He wears these oversized pants that makes it look like board shorts.
I wouldn't say he doesn't look like a footballer, Charlie.
He's not a classic build, I would say.
There's plenty of guys that if we all look the same, it'd be a pretty boring world out there. He certainly does look like a footballer.
He looks more like a footballer than I do. I'm not saying that.
I was going to say that, but...
Oh, well, you think there. Yeah, we better kill that phone. Yes, Ross Lyon even said today on radio he thought he was the best player in the competition at the moment, which is a pretty enormous rap, isn't it?
Yeah, huge rap, and without a doubt his form has been very good. So, and Ross Lyon's probably saying that to put a little bit of added pressure on him this week. The fact that the Pies play the Saints, he'd certainly want him to go in there maybe overconfident so he doesn't perform as well. So there'd be a little bit of a hidden reason for him saying he's the best player in the comp. Certainly right up there. He's very exciting to watch.
He can do it all, can't he? He took that specky over Nick Natanui in the goal square, the Eagles ruckman, of course. Then a minute later he's kicking a left foot banana from about the same spot that you potted one against Essendon many years ago.
Yeah,
yours was better though, wasn't
it? Yeah, I don't know about that, but you're right. He is a player that can do it all, and most importantly, I think why he's loved by not only Collingwood supporters but football supporters in general is the fact that he can do that flashy stuff, but he does do the hard stuff. He really does. His grand finals were really good last year. He loves the big occasion, and once again we probably can't talk about him for too much longer. But once again, he was superb.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, look. While we're in we were wrong mode. Are you prepared to admit that Karmichael Hunt looks like a footballer now?
I never said that he didn't look like a footballer. I said that, I've had my doubts whether he should be early on, whether he should be playing and where he should be playing. That goal he kicked was absolutely brilliant. Rap for him. He's a lovely guy. As I said to you, about 9-10 weeks ago now, Charlie, that we don't know what he's like around the club. We don't know how he trains. We don't know what his leadership's like and all of those things. Now, for him to be getting a game week after week, he has to be very good in some of those areas because, let's be honest, his form hasn't been great. I thought he's shown signs every week. He's done something good every week in small patches. That goal probably being the highlight of his year. But I've seen him do other things. I saw him take a kick in a number of weeks now, sidestep a guy and then pass the ball. It was a great piece of play from Gold Coast Suns. So I've seen him do some really natural, instinctive football things. Then on the flip side of that, I've seen him do some very rugby-orientated, non-football things. So he's definitely improving. As we know, Charlie, he went back and played on Stevie Johnston. and got a few goals kicked on him.
Leaked a few.
He leaked a few. So, maybe right now for his development, I'm not so sure he should be playing because, let's be honest, it's a tactic. Geelong are in trouble. What do? Karmichael Hunt, isolate a player and happy days. And probably one of the most talented players in the competition being Stevie Johnson. If I was Guy McKenna, I wouldn't be allowing Karmichael Hunt to be isolated down there like that, especially with a talented player that's played football since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. Yeah. I really think that maybe it's time for him to move maybe away a little bit, maybe play a little bit more through the midfield, maybe play a little bit more forward. Whether he has those natural instincts or not, I'm still not convinced. But certainly that goal was terrific. The move to have him on Stevie Johnson on the last line of defence, not such a good move.
So terrific. Look, if you'd just seen a snapshot of that, the video of his goal, the 15 seconds where he's taken the mark from Riscatelli and then executed the most perfect drop punt. He really did look like he'd been playing it since he was from Auskick.
Yeah, that's right. And that's right if you isolated it. Unfortunately, if we isolated those 7 goals, it would look like he should be still playing Auskick.
Fair enough. Gary Ablett, just in that match, we should touch on that. We sort of expected a bit of niggle, a bit of sledging, and it seemed to be just a giant love-in up at Metricon Stadium. Yeah,
well, look, he's done so much for the club. I think I said that's exactly what had happened. He's been a tremendous player for the Geelong Footy Club. Now he's trying to make his mark on the Gold Coast, and certainly doing that. I think the way Gary Ablett's conducted himself and the way he's gone about it as captain, I think there's maybe doubts about his leadership. I think he's been superb. I think his form's been great, and he's doing a very, very, very good job with a young side.
Yep, good point. Now, this is an issue which has kind of bubbled along in the last 24 hours, and you may be loath to really jump in on it, but it concerns Brent Harvey, the Kangaroos captain, a post you obviously held for 10 years. Dermot Brereton has come out in the course of yesterday's game, or Saturday's game against Sydney, and said he thought he was setting a bad example by going for the sort of selfish goal when there was an obvious handball over the top to a teammate unattended in the goal square. And just really called into account whether he's being selfish or not. Now, as a veteran Roos watcher myself, I can say that he has form in this regard. I think he has done it before, and I'm not even sure necessarily he should be captain of the club. I would think Drew Petrie probably sets a more selfless example. But I would concede, obviously, he's a champion of the club and a great servant, wonderful little player. But how do you place him do you think that observation of Dermot's is right? And is he a champion of the game? Look,
I think Boomer's been he's been a very good player. He stood the test of time, over 300 games, about to break the club record, which Arch holds. The one thing I'll say, and I'll probably take it back to when Boomer was a young player himself coming into the Kangaroo side. Yeah. One of the things as captain, it's important, your own form to set the right example in your training and everything and the way you go about the game. But the other thing is to bring other players into the game and at times maybe give a handball to a kid that is struggling or needs to kick a goal just so he kicks a goal. And I remember vividly giving Boomer the odd handball that Dennis Pagan may have preferred you to go back and have a shot. I remember doing the same thing for Peter Bell when he first came to the club. Those little things that will give them tremendous confidence by giving that handball, and not only for their confidence, for the whole team. It's a team sport. And
setting sort of 30 metres out from goal, setting them up.
That's
for a goal.
Right. And I think those types of things are very important for team camaraderie and obviously being selfless is also, I think, an integral part of playing a team sport. So in terms of that, I'd probably have to agree with Dermy. I really do think that you give the handball over the top purely because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He kicks some wonderful running goals, we know that, and he's very good at balking players, but there is a time and place for all of that, and there's also a time and place to bring other people around you into the game, and I think that was probably one of them.
as a captain, you've got to set the example at all times. It's easier in a winning club. Probably a few of your faults might get overlooked, but in a losing club, you really can't afford to slip up at all.
Oh, look, mate. There's that many mistakes made within a game.
Yeah.
We haven't got enough fingers and toes to count them, but certainly, I think giving that handball over the top would have been the right thing to do for the person involved and also for the team.
Yep. We touched on St Kilda and Collingwood meeting again in the grand final rematch this weekend, which shapes as a bit of a cracker, given that St Kilda is at last showing a glimpse of form. I mean, do you give them any chance, given how ruthlessly the Pies disposed of West Coast on Sunday?
Yeah, look, right now you'd have to say that Collingwood will go in red-hot favourites against the Saints. Good to see the Saints back to some good form, playing the sort of footy that we know that they're capable of playing, and they've got their players out. They've got some injuries, but I honestly believe that there's some really good signs there. I think a little bit of that hunger back. One of the good signs was Nick Riewoldt didn't have a big game.
Yeah.
He's been trying his heart out for the last few weeks, not quite getting the results they needed a couple of weeks ago. Having a quiet one and the Saints having a great win, I think that's a really good sign for the Saints. Might surprise a few, but I wouldn't want to back against the Pies this week.
How's your tipping going, by the way?
Tipping's going okay. The weekend caused a few upsets. I think Port Adelaide over Richmond. That's another interesting. Selling a game to play up there. Has that cost them the win? Well, at the end of the day, they both had to play on the same ground and they lost. So you just have to say Richmond are having what a lot of young sides have. Maybe they had a good win last week. They let themselves down this week, and we see that happen year after year and week after week. They just have to learn to get some consistency in their performance and prepare mentally correctly, because if they had they should have beaten Port Adelaide.
They should have, yeah. Finally, the Bulldogs. We talked about St Kilda for weeks on end when they were struggling. We've got to find someone to pick on. So they'll pick on the Doggies now. Just going, aren't they? And have won 3 games for the season, played Geelong this weekend, then I think they might have a bye. So it's conceivable after 12 rounds they'll still have 3 wins.
Yeah, struggling for their performance. Obviously, yesterday was a lot better than the week before. They were putrid against West Coast. They were as bad as I've ever seen them. Their performance yesterday was a lot better. They just probably outclassed a little bit. The Hawks having the big fella in Franklin running around. I thought Morris did a very good job on him one-on-one, but Franklin still got plenty of the ball, still had plenty of shots at goal, and was probably the difference in the end. And they're struggling, the Bulldogs, no doubt about that. But I have a lot of faith in Rodney Eade. I think Rodney Eade's one of the best coaches in the land. So I have no concern in regards to that. I just think it's that right now the players have to stand up and rather than play pretty football and perfect football, maybe head down, bum up sort of footy might be the things that the Bulldogs need to do.
Last observation, you're talking about a big bloke at the Hawthorn in front of the Hawthorn goals. There's a big bloke in front of the Bulldogs goals too, Barry Hall. Really almost slowed to a walk, hasn't he? I know he's been out and it's a bit unfair to expect him in the first game back to do well, but this must be his last season. I think
Barry said fairly openly at the start of this year. I think we all know that he had a terrific year last year, and he said it can come around fairly quickly. How it can just the breaks can go on, and that's been caused through injury. He hasn't he's had an interrupted year, but look, I'm sure that. And it also, when the side's not playing all that well, the delivery's not quite there, and you don't quite get the space. So I wouldn't be writing him off just yet. Big Barry, I think he's a terrific player, and I'm sure he'll kick a few big bags before the year's out.
Wayne Carey, thank you so much for your observations and your thoughts, and we look forward to seeing whether some of your predictions, in fact, have come true next week.
Thanks, Charlie.
See you, mate.
Cheers.